What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Free China Pod. It's been a minute, bud.
Two weeks, 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks now. I blame the delay on you.
Blame the delay on Chen Shizong, the
That's
traitor to Taiwan,
That's fair.
who opened the doors for COVID to rampage through the country, killing old and young alike.
And monkeypox now too. There's been
How many people have died of monkeypox, though?
that I don't know, but I know that it's just pretty terrible. I read some guy's account about it the other day. It was horrific sounding. But I don't know about the deaths. In Taiwan, I don't think there have been any, but there have been 2 cases.
The government doesn't give a fuck about anyone.
That is very clear. But hey, whatever. Watch the world burn, baby. But yeah, it's been too long. There's been, dude, the amount of insane news. I've been hanging around Laura too much.
Insane news, dude.
Dude, all the news has been friggin' crazy, dude.
As if Laura talks like that.
Yeah. Dude, the news has been crazy, dude. But it has like Abe Shinzo got capped. Well, I don't know. There's just been so much. I saw Biden's in Israel.
He's going to Saudi in a couple days.
Yeah, he's so cucked. That's so funny. He like pretended like he was going to be tough on Saudi Arabia and instantly bent the knee.
It's complicated. I think I'm not a fan of him like sucking Saudi's member, but I think that since his policy is basically to allow Iran to get nuclear weapons and destroy the Middle East, that he's got to give something to the Saudis, and this is what he gives them, which is like a token of his love while he allows the Shias to destroy the Middle East.
We'll
Just
see.
kidding.
We'll see what they do.
Nothing.
No, I mean what Iran does. I mean, Saudi's going to keep making money off oil, and Biden's going to keep kowtowing to them.
I think Iran is probably. I mean, they've been claiming they've been on the verge of nuclearization for like 7 years. I remember Netanyahu claiming it while Trump was still in office. Like they're like 6 weeks away or 6 months away, whatever random number they put out there from breakout. Who the hell knows what the hell's going on?
That's what I'm saying. We'll have to see because who knows? It's.
I mean, they're trying. And nobody's
everyone,
stopping them. So
yeah,
it's gonna happen eventually, just like with North Korea. So if that's the way of the world, I mean. You look at COVID, you look at climate change. We just kind of basically have a will to die. So if that's what we want, that's what we're gonna get. That's all I can say.
I think people have a will to live, but I think people aren't willing to.
Have a will to live.
I think they're not working very hard for it. Well, man, of course the elites aren't. I mean, they just want to maintain power, keep making money. That's what it boils down to. Oh, speaking of Chen Shizong, he's running for Taipei mayor.
That's the next guy to get fucking shot in the face. Mark my words.
He might. Speaking of that, Abe murder.
And I had nothing to do with it when it happened, okay? I'm just saying. The amount of deaths he's responsible for. He's basically this generation's Chiang Kai-shek. He's killed more people almost than Chiang Kai-shek now.
I think
at least on paper.
I think you overestimate how much people care. I don't
think that many people care. But somebody who's like parent or child died of COVID is going to kill him.
I don't think that's true, but it could happen. It could. I think the likelihood is quite low.
I'll bet you $100 if Chen Shizong dies of natural causes, 100 Taiwan dollars.
That's fine. All right.
Then you win. I'll give you 100 Taiwan dollars.
We gotta wait for natural causes has to include COVID, not anything not being murdered.
Well, he already had COVID.
Hit by a bus.
Yeah, anything
on
besides
accident.
Assassination. I'm willing to bet $100.
Okay. I don't see it happening. We'll see.
It's unlikely, but there's 23 million people in Taiwan, and he's trying to increase his public stature after the Taiwanese people in the for the airline industry. So,
yeah, I still think you're overestimating how much people care.
It's not about people. It's about one person with a plastic 3D printed gun, just like happened in Japan.
That wasn't 3D printed though. It was homemade. It was it was basically a blunderbuss shotgun with a iPhone circuit board to ignite the powder. It was insane, and the guy's house was filled with crazy guns. That dude was a Looney Tune, but is certainly an interesting case.
I mean, if it happened there, it can happen here. And I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that, of course, I'm not advocating violence, but I'm saying I think it's going to create a new trend in East Asia, at least. This is a pretty shocking thing to take place.
It is shocking, but I don't know.
It inspires copycats. Anytime something like this happens, there's usually a spate of assassinations.
That's, yeah, somewhat. I would agree with that, but
and it's so close to Taiwan.
There are a decent amount of political assassinations in Japan, more than people would think. Usually not that high level.
Yeah, not the prime minister. I mean, like everyone in Taiwan has been talking about it for weeks.
Yeah, mainly because he was such a good friend to Taiwan. He was kind of a piece of shit, if I'm being honest, but he was good on the Taiwan issue. He did a bunch of like genocide denial, like in Nanjing. He basically like tried to explain away comfort women, the Japanese army's use of comfort women, things like that. There's a real conservative piece of trash. I'm not saying that he deserved to get blasted with a blunderbuss in the street, but
you keep using this word blunderbuss.
This is kind of what it was.
I don't know what.
It was like a muzzle loader.
I don't know what that is either.
Like a black powder rifle, where you load it from the muzzle down instead of from like a chamber.
Do people still do that?
Well, it was handmade guns, like stuck together with electrical tape. So, yeah, but yes, they do. Before my dad went veg, he used to hunt with a black powder.
Reenacting.
It was like they make new ones. Like it's not like a.
We would have won.
But yeah, they still
not
do.
For General Sherman and his genocide on our people.
His march to the sea was a genocide, and we need to admit that.
Talk about genocide denial shit.
I fucking love Sherman. He's a badass. He was a badass.
I don't really know anything about him. I know nothing about that.
What else has been happening in the news, buddy?
Well, let's finish our discussion from before. So without getting into the details about whether or not it was right or wrong for colonial powers to repossess, let's say, the cultural artifacts of some of these cultures.
I think it was wrong.
I'm kind of on the fence. It was probably morally wrong, but it did preserve a lot more stuff, I believe, than would have been preserved otherwise, considering the amount of like tomb robbing and basically the anarchy in a lot of those.
Well, that's what they were doing too. Was tomb robbing, but
they were tomb robbing, but then placing carefully cataloging. Sometimes, yeah.
A lot of times they were selling them to like the highest bidder,
which is totally corrupt and wrong.
I mean,
but the ones that ended up in museums. Okay, so my question is not about that, not that discussion. My question is, do you think that those countries have a right to get that stuff back, even if the museum has questions about whether those countries will take care of the artifacts if they are returned? And let me preface this by saying I've been to like the National Museum in Thailand. I've seen like some of these places where they have 2,000-3,000-year-old artifacts, and the way they preserve them, I'm putting those in scare quotes, is leaving them outside in the sun.
Yeah.
In the monsoon sun to rot away.
Yeah.
So that they won't be there in 20 years.
Right.
So, what do you think?
I understand that point. I still think that, yeah, if they want them back, it's their cultural artifacts. I think they have a right to them. But I think I understand the argument that from the other side that says like we should try to preserve these things, but I don't know. I don't think it's right to steal people's shit.
But I guess the argument they would make, the counter argument would be that they're not stealing it because it's not. If it's in a private collection, then yeah, it's stolen. The idea is that it should be accessible to the public, and whether it's in the crumbling national museum of a country that can't take care of it, or if it's in the pressure-controlled like. Humidity-sensitive, climate-controlled room in the British Museum, like people still have access to it. And if it does get destroyed in one of these countries, just because whatever some nationalist leader wants it back, it actually may be robbing it of the country because it will get destroyed in some of those cases.
Well, I think if that was the concern, I think you could also help them build better facilities.
If they're interested, and it's not only about building it, though. It's about maintaining it.
Yeah. I mean, once you build those things, you don't have to maintain that much.
That rat is pretty close to us.
Yeah, boy.
I know very little about this. I
mean,
feel like if it was that easy to basically build climate-controlled, like, structures to preserve some of this material, it would be more commonplace. And I've seen a lot of places around the world where, in Zimbabwe, in India, in Thailand, where in Indonesia, where these cultural relics are just literally rotting away in the elements.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
outside,
Yeah,
basically.
I get your point. I think that's a fair thing to say.
And I'm
But-
not saying they don't like deserve their own artifacts, but I'm saying we're talking about like collective possession. Like, does a country own the object versus, because not all artifacts are owned by countries or museums. Like sometimes you collect an artifact and it gets sold into a private collection. And if that's the case, is it better in like some rich elite's private home collection, or is it better in the British Museum? I still would argue the British Museum. In
Oh,
that
for
case.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially if these are cultural artifacts, they should at least be in like the public domain.
So if it's repatriated to a corrupt country where it's just going to end up in someone's house, is that better off in that case? Because they could claim, yeah, it's our
No,
collective cultural possession.
I wouldn't agree with, because then that would be giving it to a private person instead of giving it to the state, giving
Well,
it to
you give
the
it to
broader
the state,
people.
and then the state distributes the.
Yeah, they could do that, but I mean, of course, this is all speculation. So
I'm
I
just
feel like
it from a moral aspect.
Yeah, I think public ownership, as with a lot of things, is better than private ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say if we knew for sure that was the case in whatever certain situation, then yeah, I would say I would probably rather it be kept. Another thing is that you say like the public has access, which is true, but like the people from that country of that heritage don't have access in a lot of cases.
That may be true in the local museums too. You take a country like India or something like that.
It's
Those
possible.
people can't travel across the country to like go visit their museum. It's no more 1,000 miles away in their own country.
The chances is better though.
Certainly, but it's not. In a lot of these cases, it's also not like a very minute number of artifacts here, like mummies, for instance. How many bloody mummies are there scattered around the world? I mean, there are tens of
A lot.
thousands.
I mean, we saw them in Taiwan.
The Egyptian Museum is filled to the brim with this. So
Yeah.
for something like that, like if they just claim, okay, it's all ours, you stole it, and they don't have a place to put it, and they don't. Do they need? Need is a very strange word, but
Yeah, need is a difficult word, but I don't know that Egypt is asking for them. I don't know each country's individual claims.
who is asking?
Some African countries. I know. I believe the most recent one was I think it was Niger, but I can't remember if it was Niger or Nigeria. But
Isn't it Niger?
Niger, they agreed to return some of the artifacts. So
That is a country that I would be very skeptical that it's going to end up in like a well-controlled museum.
I mean, I think that's probably a fair enough worry, but.
Especially that region, because you look at the fact that basically, what was it, Timbuktu was completely decimated by Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Or one of those organizations where they have these. I mean, just the architecture of the city, and I think like the old library too is basically just burned.
Yeah, because they're very like into iconoclasts, like just destroying all the fucking icons.
Ugh.
Which is
It's awful. I mean, I'm very pro-history, so.
yeah, me too.
Pro-history.
Mm-hmm. I'm also very anti like fundamentalist religion, growing up in it my whole life. So
Yeah.
I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb shit. I think it's done a very
Dumb shit, as Olivia would say.
dumb shit. It's done horrible things for the world that we live in. So, but I don't know. We'll see. I think
we agree now,
if there are more, yeah, to some degree, I would say if there are specific cases, then we can revisit this and look at them as individuals, because I think it does, like with almost everything, it's kind of on a case by case basis, I suppose. Oh man, I was talking to a friend back in the States, who I'm trying to get to contribute, and they were.
Send us money.
Not that, like contribute as in write articles.
Send us a lot of
Or come on the podcast. Because this person
send us money.
works for or send us money. This person works for a state in the United States.
Guam.
Yeah, exactly. American Samoa. And and they are basically like work for the state in the capacity of like basically referring people for like services. They were telling me about some of the cases they had to deal with, and it was insane, man.
I don't know what you're talking about. Cases of what?
Like
What?
people who are like one of the ones this person was telling me about is like a disabled veteran who's like still working. It's like 70 plus years old, and just got his food cut off by like he lives in like a retirement community, and basically called this person.
He got his food cut off. What does that even mean?
Like they provide meals in this like housing community. He's
Is it
like paying
a subsidized like VA
It's
thing?
not. It's not subsidized though because
not VA.
he's paying like a lot of money for it. It's like a retirement community.
Okay.
And yeah, they're like price gouging him on rent, and then he like got his salary, his like his paycheck late, and then they're like cut off his food immediately. And the guy's old and like disabled, so he has like a lot of medications he needs to take.
When you say paycheck, you mean like his?
He works.
Pay?
He works.
Oh.
He works part-time because the government doesn't give people like that enough money.
Okay.
So just story after story like this of just like the complete failure. And this, yeah, I have more to say, but I don't want to get too specific without permission. But the governor is one of the governors that we both hate a lot.
DeSantis.
Could be. Could also be someone like Abbott, or who's the cuck from Gavin Newsom.
DeSantis is my least favorite right now.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. I really dislike Greg Abbott too, just because of, I mean, you've pointed out before the hypocrisy of
He's
like,
a bad guy, but
yeah, all the money he takes.
he hasn't been super outspoken lately, and I think he was a little bit critical of. I can't remember. I feel like he did something in related to that school shooting. In relation to that school shooting.
Oh yeah, like try to defend the police, because that's all I've seen from him.
I think he lambasted them for some action. I can't remember. I can't remember the details.
I haven't heard anything about that. Also, by the way, they're about to have rolling blackouts again because they have the most privatized like electrical grid in basically all the states. And there's like new stuff coming out of Uvalde, that Uvalde shooting that you kind of mentioned, where there's like video of literally police officers on their cell phones inside the school while you can hear children like screaming, getting killed in the background.
I think I saw a headline basically saying that the police officer that they were talking about on his cell phone was talking to his wife who had been shot in one of the classrooms.
He was, I don't know, he was just staring at his phone. He wasn't on the phone, so I don't know. But if that was the case, that's like almost even more disgusting that you would just let your wife be murdered while you're like fully kitted out.
That whole situation, there's like nothing. There's nothing to say about that. I feel like that hasn't been said already. That is a horrific thing, reflective, a horrific system.
Yeah, there should be a federal investigation, and none of those people should ever work as police officers again.
That'll make no fucking difference, and it'll just happen again tomorrow, next week.
No, they need to start
the
investigating.
The whole system
these.
is broken. They should.
Oh, totally. That's why they should abolish the police.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, totally get rid of the system that we have right now and have more of like a first responder type situation. I think the way that we do policing is completely broken. And
you're talking about for like an active shooter situation, like, because that's who would respond. So in an active shooter, they should have like what, firemen responding?
No, like I'm talking about creating like a new concept of kind of. It's not totally new. I mean, like a first responder. And if in some cases they need to be armed and trained in those things, then that's fine. And you can have certain groups for certain things. But we shouldn't have police with guns out patrolling and harassing people all the time. It's broken, and I feel more and more that way every day.
I agree with the idea that they shouldn't be overstepping their boundaries. However, because of the gun laws that are in place that basically allow people to pretty freely carry guns, which you're in favor of, if you have unarmed people trying to enforce the law, they're just going to get murdered en masse.
I mean, cops almost never get shot. You can
because they're carrying guns. If they're not carrying,
I don't think that's true. If
people,
someone's going to
people
murder
in
a
my
cop,
state, people get murdered for just yelling at people in traffic. You don't think somebody who's like, you're about to go to jail for something are going to get...
It could. I'm not saying it wouldn't ever happen. What I am, and I'm also not saying that all of them have to be unarmed. What I am saying is if someone's going to murder a police officer, I don't think the fact that they have a gun or not is going to deter them from murdering that police officer.
I think it would.
I don't agree.
If one person has a gun and can basically get rid of that person and leave the scene with no evidence of them ever being there, and the other person
No,
does.
there are cameras on the police. I mean,
Just smash the camera. Like it's
no, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. There are cameras all over everywhere.
What
like,
are you
there's
talking about?
Cameras on the streets. Like,
there's not Taiwan. There are no cameras like
yeah, there
anywhere.
are. Yeah, there are.
Maybe in Missouri, but in Arizona, there are very few cameras, and most of them are not active. Like you could basically, especially in rural areas, the cop pulls you over. Okay, let's say, okay, and you're carrying drugs or something like that. He says you're in big trouble. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna shoot him in the face?
Maybe, but
burn the car.
By that time, he's already called in your license plate. So, I think that is so infrequent and it would happen so little. And yeah, people would be outraged about it.
Police shootings are fairly infrequent. Like, how many police shootings happen a year? It's like less.
You mean people shooting police or police shooting people?
Police shooting people. I think it's less than 1,000 a year in the entire United States.
That's way too many.
How many
That's
police?
like more than one
I'm not
a day.
pro-police, but way more police get shot by people than police shoot people. I believe.
No.
What are the numbers?
I recently looked on of the because they have like a list of like all the deaths that happen. Almost none of them were shot. It was like heart attack, COVID.
But how many? But how many did get?
I don't
shot or
know
assaulted?
I don't know the exact number, but
We should compare
It was
it.
It was basically none.
Yeah, but you're just scanning a list. What I'm curious is like if you actually compare the numbers. And I'm not pro-police. I agree with you that they shouldn't be harassing people. I just think that making police less armed is not going to like solve the violence. The problem is that both sides are armed. So making one side unarmed, I feel like is like not a solution.
But again, that's
Especially the one who's meant to enforce the laws.
The thing I never said that they have to all be unarmed. I think less of them probably need to carry guns, especially if they're like doing some traffic. I also think that we should like in this like traffic system, we should just put in speed cameras or red light cameras.
I agree with that.
But I think if you do disarm the police and you teach them, first of all,
You're saying disarm here. Like you mean, I guess the specifics matter to me in this. Like, are you trying to disarm them because you're using that word, and then you're saying you're not really in favor of disarming all of them? So what specifically do you mean?
First, we have over 1,000 people. Let's see. In the past year, this is from July 12th, 2022. 1,046 people have been shot and killed by the police.
Right, so
it's shot and killed.
Right. About
Okay, that's not just shot.
Uh-huh.
According to the Fraternal Order of Police, there were 178 officers shot in 2022.
And not killed.
It doesn't say necessarily killed, but shot.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty big disparity. But I have to say that number is also quite small on both sides. That this is neither is actually a huge issue here. Like there are a lot more people that die of traffic accidents. Like probably 30. How many people die of traffic collisions every year? Hundreds of thousands. Maybe.
I don't think it's hundreds of thousands. I think it's like tens of thousands. But what I would say is that just because the problem is smaller doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to fix it.
I agree, but
and
the level of focus.
I think, yeah, but I think there are ways that we could fix this. Not super easily because of how strong like the police union and stuff is, but it could be done if there was a will to do it. And
so mass shootings, you have to admit, there are definitely more people who die in mass shootings, far more people than die at the hands of police.
Are there?
Certainly. There's like a mass shooting every
first
day.
Of all, that was just yeah. But just because there's a mass shooting doesn't mean that like it doesn't necessarily even mean people die. Usually they do. So let's look.
Okay. Maybe it's not useful to compare these numbers in a sense because they're not really the same problem, right?
Yeah, I mean they come from different things, but
anyway, it's interesting to compare. Even if it's not useful, it's interesting.
It's like all like individual cases. I want the total number.
I bet you some news site will have that.
Total number of people killed in 2022 by mass shootings.
Well, 2022 is half over. You should check 2021.
So as of December 2021, so this is for 2021, there were 693 mass shootings. It says 303 resulted in 0 death. So 703 people killed.
Okay, so similar number. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that's small.
Yeah, because I mean we do have more than one mass shooting every day, at least so far in 2022. That's just the facts, and there might be more this year because people were kind of even into 2021. Still, some people were like kind of self-locking down.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, it seems especially bad right now, and part of that is more focus on it because the midterms are coming up, and it's something that the Democrats can try to use against the Republicans, even though they don't want to really pass anything.
What shocks me is both of these problems. We're talking about them so much, like mass shooting deaths, whatever, police violence. These are things that like enrage America, that like are part of the mainstream political discourse. It's like major issues, and they pale in comparison to the daily COVID deaths still.
Yeah.
And people are like, COVID is over.
Yeah, people are really acting like COVID is over in the United States, and it's insane. But that's the thing. There's a lot of political will in the people, but there's very little political will in the government to really do much of anything. And about any of these topics, whether it's like getting the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that don't have access to like clean drinking water to get clean drinking water in America, whether it's to take care of veterans, which both parties keep telling everyone that they love so much, while they cut VA benefits and shit. Like,
have they cut VA?
They did under
funding?
They did under Trump, but
we love the veterans, folks. We love them so much. We're gonna make them more responsible
that's why
for their own healthcare.
Yeah, they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, that's why we have like 40 to 50,000 fucking homeless veterans in the United States. Like, we don't give a shit about veterans. We give a shit about having enough bodies to throw against whatever war to make Halliburton a bunch of money in the Middle East. Like, that's what we care about. Doing fucking shadow wars in Africa. That's what we need. That's why we love our boys in camo. Jesus.
It's close.
Fuck off.
Don't scare him. He'll piss.
Oh, that's true. I want him to just run back, because usually he'll run away. I need to buy more traps. Yeah, I mean, this is why it all comes down to the DTP. is like people have to like stop accepting it. I don't know,
or just accept it and let the world end.
I mean, that's okay with me too, to some degree, because
it seems like what they want it is right now. I mean, that's the mass political will, is basically for the world to end.
See, I don't think that's true. I think people don't know what to do. And I think the easiest thing is to start small, like call or write or email your congressperson, go protest, run for office yourself.
Ask you about simple things to preserve the world, like becoming a vegetarian or recycling or like voting.
Yeah. I think all that's a lot of things is people have to start small and increase.
But the fact that a lot of people won't even do those like minute things just indicates to me, not everyone, but a good portion, a growing portion, it's just done.
I don't know if it's a growing
Just
portion,
checked
because
out.
the young, and this has kind of always been true, but the younger generation is quite political.
They're political in the sense that they talk about politics a lot.
Yeah.
But in terms of political knowledge or in terms of political activity,
Well,
and by that I mean voting.
Young people are generally like gonna have less knowledge just by the fact that they're younger. They've had less time to study these things. But I've met a ton of people who vote all the time who are like 60 plus years old and don't know a fucking thing about
I'm not
politics.
going to argue with that. Political knowledge in general is low. But youth have always been, I mean, historically, they always have big ideas and very little follow through.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you look at the 70s in the United States.
Any generation in history.
For the most part, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I am a real big opponent of people that like.
I'm an opponent of them too.
People that are like the children will save us, that kind of mentality. But I do think that there's engagement and there's a desire for change and
yeah, that's been historically true for.
But that's what I'm saying is that people need to.
Jesus fucking Christ! I'm gonna go put a mask on.
People need to point that in the correct direction. Is what
they know what the correct direction is, because a lot
Well,
of them are just dumb and misled.
I mean, that's
Sorry,
all.
kids.
That's again. I feel like older people are exactly the same. But what I will say,
Yes.
what I will say for younger people is they tend to be more compassionate.
They also tend to think that they know what the fuck they're talking about. Like
Well, again, I think that's people. I don't know that that's like a particular characteristic of younger people.
I feel like a lot of, and we're just making like anecdotes about generations.
Of course.
I feel like
We're
older
speaking
people are
broadly.
more likely to just admit that they don't know and don't give a shit, and younger people are like, I think I know, I think I give a shit, even though they don't.
And then they
The same misinformed people.
at least
Let me
they
get a
kind of
mask.
at least they kind of try, I would say. I suppose my base point being is that I think all generations suffer from similar issues, and I think that the point is that my
I'm not blaming them
No,
specifically.
for sure.
I'm
No,
just
for
saying
sure.
that they're not the great hope.
no that
I think they are.
I 100% agree with that, but I think a lot of younger people, because it's older people that often say things like that, like they're the hope for the future. Because I know my parents say that,
Ugh.
and I detest the fact that you scoffed at my parents.
No, I'm not scoffing.
know,
I'm scoffing at that idea.
I know. I'm just giving you shit. But
I really value the youth in the future. I just don't think that like there's any single group that's going to be able to save us. We're going to have some collective will.
absolutely, for sure. That's what I'm saying is that's why people need to start getting engaged. And just like everything, like if you start to exercise or you start to like whatever, eat vegan or something, like sometimes you have to start slow and start like where it's easy. That's why like
The problem I think is that maybe you look at the different political trends, the different areas where people can quote unquote get involved. It's easy to say like get educated first and then whatever follow whatever path you pick. But how do people know which people to follow when they're getting themselves educated? I feel like this is such an impossible problem.
I think you get involved and you
But what if people
test
are like,
and see what
"Oh,
works.
But people self-delude themselves all the time.
For
Think
sure.
about, okay, maybe they're a Roganite or something like that, and they're gonna go on the all meat diet instead, and they're gonna start voting for Ron DeSantis, like, and that's how. And then they delude themselves. They're like, yeah, the reason that Ron DeSantis didn't make America great again is because the obstructionist Democrats. Once you go down those paths, I feel like it's hard to get out, and people build a worldview around themselves that's very difficult to get out. So in the initial place, just like latching on to some idea and then getting involved. I don't know.
That's why you shouldn't. That's not what I'm calling for necessarily. I'm talking about. I mean, you're talking about that is just a problem of critical thinking. So you have to be very self-critical. I think, but you don't have to like attach. I think that's why whenever anyone asks me about like, are you like, how do you identify politically? I almost never
radical vegan.
I almost never give them an answer because there's no point to it. Because it's exactly the same as religion. Even when I was like a Christian, I wouldn't tell people I was a Christian because people hear that and they either think like, oh, you're like,
oh, he's a virgin.
No, he only does.
Look at the size of that lizard.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He's a fatty.
I saw some huge ones over by the beach. But anyway, there's so many preconceived notions about like what those terms mean that it's just like
I saw a dragon somewhere. Was that with you?
a dragon.
Like a dragon being like an iguana-sized lizard.
Oh,
I think they called them dragons.
No.
I saw one somewhere in Taiwan, but I can't remember who I was with.
I don't think it was with me.
It was I think it was in Matsu. We were walking up a mountain. No, it was with Ben.
Yeah, so yeah.
It was with
this
Ben.
one.
We were in Jai. I'm mixing up places. We were at this like reservoir area. I saw this. It was like maybe 3 or 4 feet long, and
Yeah.
it was in like a reservoir area, like going up a cliffside.
I heard in the South they're like starting to have problems with them because they're invasive species. I know in
Are they?
Florida they have a huge problem with them.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis is first lizard person.
Oh, that's true. He is a lizard person. But my point being is that don't attach yourself to ideology.
Or lizard people.
Attach yourself, or lizard people, definitely. Attach yourself to ideas that you fundamentally believe in, and then be willing
difference between that and an ideology?
be willing to criticize it. You have to. I mean, with anything you do, you have to have critical thinking skills. And if you don't, then yeah, it's going to be a failure. But like not engaging at all and not caring is going to have the same result, if not worse.
What if you're just exploring, waiting to see which?
That's what I'm saying. Explore, but you should at least
Explore by engaging.
get somewhat involved, because I think by engaging, like whatever, organizing your workplace or writing a letter to your congressperson or
Going on the all meat diet.
go to a protest. Well, I mean,
Voting for Ron DeSantis.
those are the things that it helps to have critical thinking skills, because you can look if you
Joining the 3%ers.
care about the planet, meat is obviously part of the destruction of it. It's also violent, murderous
Oath keepers.
oath keepers. Yeah, never mind. I won't say anything. Yeah, join your local anarchist
Militia.
gun club. Militia. Yeah, start your own well-regulated militia like the Constitution says.
Not optimistic.
Well, me either, buddy. But I try to be occasionally because I don't know.
You like wasting time?
I mean, it's a waste of time to be a fucking doomer too. Like I just flip between them.
Shut up, Doomer.
Okay, doomer. I mean, yeah, I definitely am sometime. I do think
I'm
probably
just getting into tuning out lately.
See, I don't know. I like to know what's going on. I like to
Well, I like to know what's going on, but I like if I get the feels about a topic, it'll just make me upset.
sometimes that's good, but yeah, you can't be upset all the time.
Not when there's nothing you can do about it ever.
Yeah, but I mean, even like I think spreading those sorts of that sort of information is important because then someone might hear it that could do something about it.
I mean, I agree with you in general, which is why we work so hard on this site. But
Yeah, wrote a couple stuff that right now something that's going on that we have no control over, but I do think is really important is what's happening in Sri Lanka and the Solomons. Those two are like, especially Sri Lanka right now. The heads of state are like fleeing the country.
yeah, I saw that they're waiting for him to resign. I guess he like fled without resigning, and they still have kind of the constitutional system in place. So
Yeah.
they seem to be in a little bit of a quandary.
They said they both the PM and the president said that they will resign.
We're just gonna flee the country and hang out for a few months. You guys deal with your own shit.
Yeah, figure it out. Swim in the presidential pool.
We're still gonna collect our salary, but oh yeah, I saw the pictures of the people in that pool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hope they do get more of a democracy and more of a representative one.
I thought it was a pretty functioning democracy.
I mean,
I'm not really aware.
I don't think they're super. I don't think it's super representative, and also it's basically
I'm gonna
been
look
like
at Freedom House score.
one family that's basically controlled the government for decades.
Is that so?
That is so. I mean, before the previous prime minister resigned, like a month ago, it was the prime minister and the president were brothers. So, if that gets you any insight into how
Sounds a lot like
incestual it is. Yeah, no, I mean America's also horrible with like
See, 55 out of 100. That's not terrible.
it's not good either
So
though.
I'll read to you about their electoral process. Yeah, it says under the Constitution amended in 2015. Let's see, 3 out of 4, which is like pretty good.
It's not bad.
Through fair elections, it says parliamentary polls were mainly free and fair and saw lower levels of violence compared to previous elections. Intimidation and harassment of women, Muslim, and Tamil voters prior to the polls were among the incidents. Provincial elections were repeatedly postponed. Yeah, 3 out of 4 again. But still, the government promised to hold council elections. It's not really relevant. Are the electoral laws fair? 3 out of 4 again. It says the government has been unable to complete the process for blah 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 constituency delimitation. It's not really important. 3 out of 4 is. Well, just use numbers here. 3 out of 4 is pretty good. A lot of American things are 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the process may not be just like in America, like besides the like soft coup attempt that Donald Trump tried to do, the process is mostly fair. There's a lot of problems, but like in terms of like looking at the world, it's not bad. But it doesn't mean that like politics are not incredibly incestuous with like children running for office in the same congressional seat. Like the place I used to live in the States,
Ivanka.
it was like always the same family that like won the district. And my dad said one of those people came and talked to him recently and had no fucking idea what he was doing. It's just like it was my daddy's seat and my daddy's seat, so I think I should be the congressperson too. And that's
Yeah,
just
it's gross.
It's gross, yeah. And that's why people should start trying to oppose these people and point it out and say, no, I'm going to run instead and actually like try to represent the constituency.
I hope that people who have some basic knowledge do that, so it's not just replacing
No, of course.
an ignorant son of a former congressperson with an ignorant stranger.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't want like ignorant people to run, but at least with that, there's a chance. We know what the outcome is with these people who already have all these connections in the Beltway and just constantly like grow more and more corrupt and richer.
Don't be so ignorant.
That's ignorant. All right, what else you got, bud?
I don't know. Mostly stuff about the bloody January 6th stuff. Still going on about that.
It's gonna be going on for a while.
Steve Bannon was trying to fight contempt of court charges and stuff like that, and it looks like the arguments he was making are not really holding up. I think he was claiming that. Well, first of all, he claimed executive privilege, even though he like wasn't a member of the administration when the president contacted him or something like that.
Executive privilege by proxy.
And then he was claiming again that he had like some kind of privilege because the president told him not to talk to the committee, and they said the committee. The president is whatever. Trump is no longer the president.
Yeah.
He has no privilege anymore to tell you not to talk to the committee.
Yeah.
So a lot of bad arguments. Lindsey Graham is also being like subpoenaed for information, and he's claiming that he has complete immunity, which is interesting because the same Steve Bannon, I believe, and his lawyers were like subpoenaing Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, like members of Congress, basically to get information to them to see if they were biased against him and why they had subpoenaed some people and not others, charged some people and not others. And they were claiming immunity because they're sitting Congress people under, I forget the name of the statute. But anyways, and Lindsey Graham claimed the same statute, saying that he doesn't have to talk to the committee also, even though he was technically involved in this.
Yeah, he's also not part of the committee.
Well, he's claiming as a sitting congressperson.
Right. I know what you're saying.
That he can't be called before like a congressional committee. That he has, he claimed, the quote is total immunity, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of details coming out from these hearings, but I don't know if they'll really do anything about it.
What I saw that he was doing, Lindsey Graham is a sack of shit. But
yeah, that's true.
People are claiming that basically he called Raffensperger in Georgia, and he's like, what you should do. He this isn't like he ordered anything, but he basically suggested that any county that with like a certain number of like invalid votes to just throw out all the ballots in that county in the county. And Raffensperger said like it's against state law. We can't do that.
Yeah.
Apparently. So this is all alleged, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I don't think we'll ever find out.
Yeah, I
don't know if he'd tell the truth, even if he was put on an oath, because again, he thinks he has total immunity. So why wouldn't he just perjure himself in front of his own fucking body? Can a congressperson be charged with contempt of Congress if they are in Congress?
They're not going to do it anyway. Yeah. I think even if they could, it's all like good old boys type club. Like we're all friends. They're all friends. That's why Joe Biden goes out there all the time and goes, oh, Lindsey Graham is my good friend.
He's losing friends quickly. The other thing that I saw recently is that New York Times and other sources are talking about some kind of poll where apparently the majority, 75% of Democrats want or whatever are interested. That's the word they used. Are interested in a replacement for Biden.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
which is fucking. It's insane. It's insane that this has been an elite thing for a while. That they basically, why the fuck did the elites put him in place so that he could run for a single term and they could replace him with like a totally new candidate in 2024? Is that their idea?
I think that's what they're going to try to do. Because, I think they had to have known that he was. Maybe they didn't know he was failing. His mental faculties were failing as much as they were.
I don't know if he is or not. I think it's dangerous to make those claims. I would say that's probably true for a lot of people in Congress.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at Dianne Feinstein. Oh my goodness, there's an article like every.
Yeah, but you're the one who disagreed with me about having like cognitive tests for officials, right?
Yeah, I wonder about those things. I think what would work better is there should just be like term limits.
Forced sterilization.
I don't know how that would help. I mean, besides the fact that you would never have like like sons and daughters running for things. You wouldn't have a Chelsea Clinton.
Term limits don't help. They might help, but they don't help in situations like Donald Trump, for instance. You can have just one random politician that comes in and like fucks everything up. Like it's not doesn't prevent a.
It doesn't fix everything, but you could say that about anything. I mean, it would end a lot of this like lifelong corruption.
That would, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is about people who are mentally incompetent to serve public office. Term limits don't really help that.
But
I think cognitive tests would.
I think cognitive tests, while on its face, I like the idea. I think things like that are often weaponized.
They could be, but why don't you just have like the Surgeon General of the United States military or something like that? Like it would be all too easy to basically have it unbiased. Have a committee, for fuck's sake. Have a bipartisan committee. Appoint a series of physicians to like overgo. Like you could do it in an unbiased way. Like you can't just say that it could be corrupted, so we shouldn't do it. I mean, I don't mean you. I mean people making that argument. I feel like it's important enough and it's becoming relevant enough after two presidents who you could reasonably argue would probably not cognitively fit to be president of the United States.
Well, at least one of those could have been helped if we just directly elect the president instead of having these stupid electoral college.
Agree, but again, that's like kind of going around the problem. It doesn't stop people from electing somebody who's not cognitively fit because
if I could see a way that it could be unbiased, which I don't think that it would. I don't think that in our political system we could. Then yeah,
why not?
I could be.
Why not just? I mean, they do unbiased redistricting. They do this all the time.
But they don't. But again, well, first of all, there's been like numerous cases of the Supreme Court now throwing out those rulings. So that's another thing. Is also the Supreme Court should be totally delegitimized.
But you're changing the topic here. My point is there are lots of examples of bipartisan or nonpartisan commissions doing these things to basically prevent bias here.
In name, but again, I don't know that that's how they actually function. And they definitely function in the direction of the elites. So, yeah, again, if
redistricting, how does redistricting work in the function of elites?
It works in favor of the elites because it helps them to keep getting elected.
I mean, both political parties. There's only two political parties.
Well, there aren't just two political parties.
There are only two functional political parties in the United States system because of the electoral laws in place.
Yeah.
I don't see a way that redistricting could have any effect on that whatsoever.
It helps them maintain their power.
The two parties maintain their power.
Yeah, and inside individual states, absolutely.
If there were a third party that were, it could conceivably do that. If there were a third party,
it does.
It
helps. I mean, you look at some of the maps that are coming out of places like Ohio, where they're like completely carving out huge sections so they can make sure that the Republicans win instead of the Democrats.
But again, that's just to the advantage of one party over the other. It's not one of the two major parties over a third party.
Yeah, but those are. I think that part of the third party aspect comes in at a different level.
I'm just talking about redistricting here. I'm just giving you that as an example of the fact that it can be done in an unbiased way.
But I don't think it is. That's the thing. I don't.
What are you basing that off of? Because it works.
The maps and the fact that also that the Supreme Court is overruling the ones that are drawn more.
But you were just saying that the Supreme Court. Forget the Supreme Court and what they're overruling here. The idea is that it can be done. You don't agree with that?
It could theoretically be done.
I think it is done.
I don't agree with
my state, Arizona, we have pretty fair, I would say, districting practices in place. We have a nonpartisan board. The entire thing is done through what we call a Clean Elections Commission.
Yeah, I agree that it can be done.
I think it is done right now. I would argue for my state.
In some places, maybe. That's fair. But I think it's very easily bastardized. But yeah, I think
you could say that about the elections.
No, agreed. And here's what I think it comes down to is just like with the police, what we were talking about earlier. I think it comes down to actually having true accountability. And if there's no accountability, then of course they're going to get corrupted and they're going to have all these problems. So I think that may be where the true problem lies.
I'm not talking about corrupt. I'm just talking about whether someone is capable, because people get propped up all the time. Like whether or not you make a bad decision. You shouldn't have someone in that position of power who's not cognitively capable of running the country. It's dangerous and it's frightening. Whether or not they make a mistake, it shouldn't be allowed to take place at all. You shouldn't. I mean, think about the amount of responsibility and power they have. They have access to the nuclear codes. They have the ability to basically not really unilaterally declare, but send military send the military into in a situation.
Basically Star Wars.
Basically Star Wars, to tear up treaties, to they have a frightening amount of power in a single individual.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there should be something that we should know. Like, it should be completely transparent, and there should be a bipartisan way, and we should basically know for sure. Maybe that's not to disqualify somebody, but if somebody is like Donald Trump, probably has an IQ of like 55, I think the American people, I think there should be a bipartisan commission that appoints a panel of physicians and at least gives that information to the public before the election. That sounds fair, right?
I suppose so. I think,
as opposed to having nothing, which is what we have now.
yeah, but again, I think with this dichotomy of like Republicans and Democrats, I don't know that would matter, because
You don't think if they're like one of these two candidates is like can barely speak English? Like, I mean, you look at
they
Biden.
would have said that about both of the candidates last time. And what people are going to vote for Joe Jorgensen?
Maybe.
Of course not.
Maybe.
No.
I think a lot of people would. I think
don't agree
some
with that.
people value the presidency, especially independents, people who are not, and independents are increasing in number, people who are not really tied to either political party. It's only
still not enough to win an election.
It might be.
if you swing one side. But again, in the last election, both of the candidates were mentally deficient, and
They were
no
not,
one
though.
cared.
You say that they were mentally deficient. Most people even now would deny that. They don't believe
Again,
it.
I think that proves my point. Is
If
that
you had a bipartisan
people will,
commission releasing that information, basically putting it next to their name on the ballot, saying, whatever, Joe Biden, IQ 36 or something like that. Donald Trump, IQ 24. Joe Jorgensen, IQ 103. People will be like, I think people will second guess it. I think the 35% of people who are unaffiliated outnumber either of the two hardcore wings of the two political
I
parties.
think that's the other problem, though, is that you could theoretically be a better candidate and have like a slightly lower IQ because of however they make
that
the
might be
IQ
true, but if somebody
IQ
is
test.
like, if somebody's at 32, I mean,
Yeah, of course, but
alarm
neither
bells.
of them would have gotten a 32. Both
I
of
have
them
no
would have
idea.
done fine.
I have no
and
idea.
the other
honestly.
thing,
it might have happened, honestly.
I mean,
Donald Trump
this
can
is
barely read.
It's a counterfactual, so I mean, yeah, we can say maybe.
Based on everything I've read, Donald Trump can barely read. As far as Joe Biden, I have heard no leaks yet. But you just look at his behavior. For fuck's sake, the
Look
other
at
day
him
he
try
read
to-
on the teleprompter.
Yeah, repeat the line or whatever.
Yeah, dude.
Say the line again. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean,
Maybe they honestly would have gotten like below 50. In which case, people very well may have just voted for a third party, like a considerable amount of the population.
I don't think enough to win, but whatever. Again, these
It
are
is
all,
counterfactual.
these are all counterfactual.
But I'm saying, don't you think that would be helpful? You really disagree with that?
I with the history of the United States and how inefficient we have been and how many times we've used literacy and IQ tests to disproportionately
You're talking
affect
about
people who
voters
are-
at the local
are
level.
poor and people of color.
Not like a
I think it's not a
congressional
great way.
committee, like a bipartisan congressional committee at the elite level for the elite level. It's not. You're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing like 1920s local officials abusing their power against voters.
I mean, into the 1970s and 80s, and it still gets abused
literacy
again.
tests were not used in the
Not
1980s.
literacy tests, but things of that nature. More recently, it's been more like what I was talking about earlier with like redistricting and things. But I'm gonna keep saying the same thing. If I saw a plan that I thought was like good, maybe I'd be like, okay, that's probably fine. But I have a lot of reservations about it because
I think the more
it's
information we have,
historically
the
been
better.
bad. Sure,
And I think people
but
can
I think
make their own decision.
information can be very easily twisted and weaponized.
That's true for literally everything, though.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean, I agree we should have more information. But I worry about where the focus on some of those things would be. And
I'm
again,
not
just
worried.
because one person has a higher IQ doesn't mean that they would be better.
I
And
totally
that's
agree. But
another
if someone
problem
has
that
a
people could fall in.
frighteningly low IQ, I think that would raise some alarm bells.
But I don't know if that's how the American people read it. I don't know. Maybe. Again, that's where I am. Is like maybe you could convince me, but right now
Considering
I
that
still have
we
a lot of
had two who
reservations.
I would say probably fell below 70, like they're not qualified to join the army. That's how low they
Well,
are.
neither of them were
That being the
qualified
case,
to be president.
if it's those two, I think it would swing one. But again, it's counterfactuals. I just think the more information, the better. I guess I keep repeating my points.
I mean, I agree. More information is better, but yeah, I think that's where we're gonna end on that because that's just we're just gonna keep saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. What else is going on?
What else is going on?
What else is happening, bud? Because I'm trying to think.
Trump is arguing with Musk.
Oh yeah,
If anyone
yeah.
cares about
Musk.
Musk anymore.
Twitter is suing Musk now.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people are pissed. Finally, like the Muskphilia. I don't know how else to describe it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it standing or get into this like Twitter terms. Muskophilia was like really pronounced in the last few months, especially since his like bid to take over Twitter. And now that he's like backed out, fucked over Twitter in like the worst of the market, and he's losing a whole bunch of money on Tesla, and he's in bad shape. I feel like the love affair with him is dying down, which is good for everyone because he's obviously a scumbag. I'm sure you saw the news recently that he had like his 10th child recently with his employee, no less. Did you see that?
Yeah. It's so funny, man, because
He's a weird, creepy man.
he's so disgusting, and I think it's so funny that like literally the only thing he's ever pulled out of in his life was the Twitter deal. Because clearly
Well, that's not true. He's pulled out of a lot of deals. Apparently, he's like he's made like merger or acquisition like requests for a shitload of companies. He always pulls out at the last second. This is like,
Okay, so companies is the only thing he can pull out of because women seems like impossible for him.
yeah, there's a lot of people with filthy personal lives, but he's like, this is a serial thing for him. He seems to love
clearly.
trolling companies.
Clearly, he's got a serious problem. Well, speaking of having a bunch of like quote unquote illegitimate kids, do you know
Lula.
do you know who Herschel Walker is?
It's the actor who played the guy on The Walking Dead, right?
No, he's a former professional football player who's running for Warnock's seat in Georgia.
Okay.
He keeps talking because he's running on the Republican ticket, so he keeps talking about how the problem with families and the problem with the United States is that we don't have strong family units anymore. And then now it's come out that he has like 3 illegitimate children that he like doesn't see.
I mean, I don't know why this surprises everyone. Like, it's the same thing.
It doesn't
We haven't talked
surprise
about
me,
abortion,
but it makes me laugh.
I feel like this is the same thing with abortion. I don't know why anyone's surprised. Like, you hear people, you see the same patterns over and over for decades. People saying the same things for decades, and all being hypocrites, all lying, and then you act so surprised when they surprise you.
No, no one should be surprised by any of this, but that's emblematic of the fact that people pay so little attention, or maybe they pay attention to like MSNBC or Fox News, but that it's clear
Does anybody
how
watch those anymore?
Huh?
Do people?
Old people do.
Well, they're also depleting.
It's
The supply
true.
of old people is
It's true, but
depleting.
I'm really hoping that the
Thanks to COVID.
younger generation stops fucking watching TikTok videos to get their politics.
Yeah, let's hope COVID is more egalitarian in its death rates. That's a joke. I hope nobody dies of COVID. Okay.
Of course. I mean, we've been some of the few voices arguing for like actual COVID policy that would actually save people's lives.
I saw recently. I was talking with Olivia about traveling. Now that I'm one of the infected, and I am shocked at how many countries are still like a gung ho on the vaccines. They're like, as long as you have your vaccines, there's no rules.
No big deal.
Yeah, basically, like the borders are totally open if you have 2 vaccines and 9 boosters.
Yeah, I heard there's like another variant already.
Well, BA5 is not like new.
No. There's another one I heard that's like starting to pop up.
What's it called? Which Greek letter did they choose to skip the next time?
No, I think it's still part of like the Omicron family, but it's got like
They
10
ran out of
variations.
letters.
Yeah, they just gave up. Well, it's because they skipped she because they didn't want to upset the dear leader.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
What, BA6, 7, 8?
there was like a nickname for it that I saw, but I don't remember off the top
The
of my head.
species ender.
I'll try. Yeah. The
The final frontier.
I was gonna say something bad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The abortion. The abortion of the human race.
it's just the black pill. It very well might, and maybe
Ivanka.
maybe that's what the world needs is just to abort everyone.
I hope not.
Post-birth abortions.
I really need to start stocking up on instant noodles again. Olivia's gonna get angry.
I just I don't know. The
It's
amount
no
of
good if you don't have fresh vegetables, but
you
they'll
do
keep
have
alive.
to. Well, the other thing is that we're starting our little gardens here, so we might have.
See how long. If shit really does go down, how long until those things just get robbed? Somebody just comes in the night and steals all our cherry tomatoes.
Depends how many Abe-style blunderbusses you have in your house,
I
bud.
have 0. I just have my little machete.
Yeah, I bought that. I have that cleaver now. That thing is sick.
You should get a machete. The
it's so
machete's on
heavy.
sticks. You get further reach.
That's true. That is, yeah. Yours is like, it's not even really a machete. It's like a hook sword. That thing is sick. I love it.
It was the last one they had in stock. I think they stopped carrying those years ago.
They're like, only psychos come in and buy these.
There's no farmers in this area. Or
Yeah.
very few at least.
Yeah, very few.
Like people use it for gardening or for whatever, like kind of like land clearing that takes place here. But I'm sure the people who do that shit aren't gonna go to that hardware store to buy it. That's like
Probably not.
It's a little bit local. It's a little bit urban, semi-urban at least.
Semi-Keith Urban.
They have like other ones with like plastic handles, but that old like natty wood handle.
Oh yeah, you want the wood.
I've seen that thing. I saw that thing for sale. I believe in like 2019 when I first moved to this area. 2018, and it's 2022 now. So that thing's been there for 5 years, like just sitting on the shelf.
Been waiting for Daddy to come pick her up.
It didn't even have like a barcode on. They had to like look it up.
That's hilarious. That thing is pretty sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
worth it. I've been thinking about buying it for years. That's why I remembered it being there.
I think I just need to like get a forge and start making my own medieval
Forge?
weapons.
Yeah, I would recommend against that.
Make myself like a morning star and like a mace.
I feel like blacksmithing is
Sick.
not a practical hobby.
Maybe. Look at this cat on the hunt. Hey, buddy.
Is this the same cat?
No,
It's weird at night.
this is a different cat because his face is not all cut up. I tried to feed him the other day, but he's really skittish.
Come here.
Come here, buddy.
He's curious. Mimi.
He's like, I don't fuck with those street cats.
That cat used to like go to the window for Mimi. He would like sit in the window and they just like look at each other.
He's smelling around for that mouse.
Kill it.
Yes, please do.
No, don't kill it. Just
Play with
Play
it,
with
make
it.
it run away. What
play with it and let it go.
what else is going on?
I hope the world shapes up. I hope we remember our will to live, our will to survive. Because the human species deserves it. We fuck up a lot of things, but as black-pilled as I may get, I think we as a species, we should survive. We have the potential to like do great things, and that
Yeah.
includes fixing our fucking problems.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason I don't pray for the complete destruction of the world is because I think we have a lot of potential, a lot of wasted potential, but we have potential if we get our shit together. I don't know if we will, but I hope we do. I sure hope we do. And I think, yeah, people should. He just nodded at you. I saw that. What's up, bro? I don't know. I hope we get on track. I think part of it is, yeah, we need to like get back to like
COVID brain.
real human interaction. People got to start like talking to their neighbors again.
Well, for that we got to get COVID under control, bud. Now people don't want to talk to anybody.
Best case, call them on the phone. Well, in America, no one cares.
Call Cuomo.
Call Cuomo.
He can solve it.
I'm Italian. Makes me now when I think of that, I think of Adrian Brody's character in Peaky Blinders.
Did you finish that season?
I finished, yeah.
Oh, so you saw him.
Yeah, I saw it. It was
Did you see
that was
season
intense.
5?
I started it.
I started it too. I'm on 3. I figured you'd like it. He's not like he's a labor socialist, but he's tricky, you know. You never know what's like going on beneath that veneer.
Yeah, he seems like a sleazeball politician, which makes me like him less, but
As if there are non-sleazeball politicians out there.
I think there are some, but not many. And well, speaking of UK politics, Boris Johnson's gone. Bye.
I'm not a big fan, but I am a fan of his strength towards Russia in favor of Ukraine. Strength against Russia, not to Russia. Strength against Russia in favor of Ukraine. There have been very few European politicians who have been as strong as Boris Johnson has, particularly against.
Except for Emmanuel Macron, right?
Oh my gosh! In the opposite. Like Macron, until even recently, he's like, yeah, we got to negotiate. We got to come up with like a.
You don't want to embarrass Putin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not against negotiation, but realistically, like saying that we should be soft on Russia because we don't want to embarrass the dictator who upended the world order is a very sycophantic thing to say.
Yeah, who's literally doing war crimes in Ukraine right now.
And Boris Johnson was like, you can't. He's a crocodile. Like
Yeah.
the chances of getting a peace treaty with him are close to nil until he gets what he wants, which is, I mean, who knows at this point? I mean, he may have dying of blood cancer.
I think he wants to annex the whole of Ukraine, but
that's what Ukraine is saying now.
I think he would probably be okay with like Donbass.
A lot of people are saying that he wants the south and the east, and then basically he'll like just take a break and then come back once.
Oh yeah, he's not
once they've dropped the sanctions.
He's not gonna he's not gonna stop. I mean,
if he continues, if he's alive in a few years, which is a big question mark. If he does have blood cancer, I hope it takes him quickly. Like honestly, he's responsible for so much death. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not like pro-death, but
no, me either. But
if he's gonna die, just die sooner. I mean, of course he's gonna die.
He will eventually. But again, I don't like death or violence, but I wouldn't mind it that much if he got obeyed.
For the sake of the people that are gonna die.
Yeah, for the amount of lives that it could save. Yeah, it depends on also who comes after him, but
I think almost. I don't think any other. I mean, and this is a ridiculous thing to say, but judging by the words of the people in his administration right now, the entire reason that they haven't completely pulled out and tried to save their economy and their country is because of him. They're basically saying we're going to stay in this until the objectives of the supreme commander are fulfilled.
Yeah.
It's completely driven by a single man. This isn't Russia's fault, and Russia shouldn't suffer any more than Ukraine should suffer for the actions of a single man.
Yeah,
a single deranged, maybe dying man.
Yeah, I feel really bad of course, for Ukrainians, but also for the Russian people. They've suffered greatly under Putin.
They've suffered under a lot of people for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Russia hasn't had a good streak of leaders the past history, the whole history of the country. I mean, you can go back even before like the communists in name only, like murderous dictators like Stalin. But then you get to the czars, and the czars were fucking monsters. Like Russian serfdom was like some of the worst in Europe. So it's not good. It's not good. I hope, like every country, I hope that they are one day free.
Hashtag milk tea.
Hashtag milk tea alliance. That guy is like just staring. He's closing his eyes earlier.
To hang out with the bros.
Bros gang.
Shaddy bang bros gang.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to bros gang.
Shout out to bros gang. Friends of the pod. I would just like to take this moment.
It was 2 years since the party. I guess, did they really come? Nah, they didn't really come to the party. They were there at the beginning. In Elon.
Yeah, they weren't really there. Just certain members.
Just like, hi, bye. Certain members. I don't think any. I mean, just Kim.
Yeah.
They all just like left early.
Not very bros of them.
They're just. They're not party guys.
Not party boys.
They're not party, but they're not. They know nothing about that stuff.
They don't know about that life. You got to get in that life.
Just sense
I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
Back in action tomorrow.
That is true. We only spit facts. Oh, I wanted to say people should start growing their own food. I think it's. I mean,
that's a fact.
I got these sugwa that I'm gonna give all to you.
I would love them.
Yeah.
I had some in my chili today, and they were okay. I like them with a nice spicy sauce because it's kind of like a sponge.
Yeah, they're quite spongy.
The problem is you overcook them, they cook down to nothing. It's just like a ball of slime.
They get real slimy, yeah.
If you cook them a tiny bit, they're quite delicious with a spicy sauce.
I feel like that with most green vegetables. Almost every, like, I like to long cook. This is becoming a cooking podcast. I like to cook, like,
Tell me how you simmer them.
Tomatoes and onions and garlic at the beginning. Cook those down into a nice sludge. Of course, you have to cook like the potatoes, and like dikwa, the sweet potato, and recently I've been cooking a lot of pumpkin. You got to cook those first too, but then you get your garlic and your tomatoes cooked down into a nice sludge, and
I'm
then
growing
like
a lot of pumpkin right now.
right before the end, I planted some pumpkin seeds. I just throw in all the green vegetables and like do a quick stir fry and then
You have a
done.
lot of pumpkin, boy.
I do like pumpkin.
Problem is, if there is like a catastrophe, like an Ivanka strain or something like that, an abortion strain, if you do lose electricity or you lose cooking oil, there's no way to eat raw pumpkin. I feel
Start a fire.
Start a fire.
Just
Get my
deconstruct.
forge. Deconstruct my forge.
Wait, hell yeah, brother. We can deconstruct a couple of those wooden houses in the neighborhood that we saw today.
Yeah, if we don't get like Mad Maxed on the way out there.
That's true. Well, you got your machete, so I think we'll be all right.
If we had the three amigos here, in like a little Sanhoyen, we could create like a little defensive quarter, especially with the car. I mean, we could like cordon it off.
Block it off.
Yeah. We could armor the car.
I mean, if
Mad Max this bitch.
the reason I say grow food is more for like just the fact that food prices are going to increase. But yeah, if there's that kind of stuff, it's gonna be rough for everyone. But yeah, I mean, if that's also the case, we could have the three amigos here because we could just kick the door in and let Benjamin live there.
Well, that's if he's not in Jai before society
So I'm
shuts
saying
down.
once it starts getting that way, he's gotta get down here. He knows who the real boys are. He knows who's trained with guns. That's me.
As if there are any guns to use.
Well, who's to say I don't have an Abe?
Be careful what you
bus?
say,
No,
bud.
I'm obviously kidding. I would never do illegal stuff in Taiwan because I don't want to get deported. But I do think that at some point I might buy a 3D printer, and then if
This conversation,
if
I feel like
there-
you should just erase the
if
last
there,
5 minutes.
No,
of
no,
this.
no, no. If there is problems, then
You won't have power. You won't be able to use it.
I'll buy a solar panel. It is raining, boy.
It's raining.
All right.
Good
Well,
night, folks.
we love you, folks. Please, if you think, if you really truly love us, go to the Patreon or
Share us.
like us, give us good ratings on iTunes or whatever you use to watch podcasts, listen to podcasts. Yeah, we love you. We'll talk to you soon.